Hello there, I'm JRT Reviews, and this is another episode of EEEEP, episode 2 of EP2, EP2. First EP is 6-piece Hot from Black. This is quite a weak offering consisting of seemingly dropped tracks and leaks, highlighting a trend towards trap rap from someone who I consider to be a rising star in the alternative R&B scene. However, to pretend Black hasn't dabbled with the sound of trap before would be denying history. Take a brief glance down the feature list of his last record, East Atlanta Love Letter. It tells you otherwise by sight alone. You got Future on there, Offset, even J. Cole. People who are establishing the sound rely on it for their music. But even then, there were enough attempts and ideas to combat and keep the sound at bay and avoid it overwhelming the tracklist and dominating the sound of the record. Unfortunately, the same really can't be said for this EP. The opening track of ATL Freestyle, a song we've already heard before, leans more towards R&B than strictly hip-hop, but already we can hear the overuse of auto-tune and manipulation of the Atlanta natives' vocals. I was relatively intrigued by Black's last LP, but to me this feels like the weakest aspects of that record has been explored on this EP. Long Nights is another song that isn't repulsively awful, just disappointing compared to Black's admittedly short back catalogue. It does feed into this general feeling of moodiness and reminiscence, but there aren't any super interesting lyrical ideas or indeed any moments that really catch me. I'll give it points for how it flows into Float, which is a slight improvement in itself. For me, it's the best track on the album, but that doesn't really say much. The song has a far more interesting concept that is more tightly followed, and the switch up on delivery is interesting. The other standout track for me was the final track, Outside, which is quite an interesting take on the concept of being separated from a loved one during quarantine, during lockdown. The lyrics are subtle, which makes a nice change from the deluge of quarantine tracks we've had so far with their on-the-nose lyrics. I do appreciate that, that's quite nice. It shows some talent and some thought's gone into it. It sounds the most personal and has a general feeling of intimacy. And best of all, there isn't any hi-hats or snares in sight. Unfortunately though, I have to say this is a downgrade from his last LP, and if it is a precursor to his third full-length project, I have my concerns about it. However, I can still see the potential. There's still something interesting to me that will keep me coming back. However, he needs to find something new to kind of drive his music onwards. Overall, I'm leaning towards a 5.5. Jockstrap return with their debut for Warp Records, another showing of their art and potential in the experimental space. Whilst they're yet to release a full-length LP, the duo's second EP has cemented them as up-and-coming in the musical world's more experimental and abstract fringes. Despite only being 5 tracks long, it showcases some interesting concepts and ideas, coupled with crisp production and the big name feature in the form of Injury Reserve. The opening track of Robert is quite chilling in its delivery at the start, and which is matched with a constantly changing background of sounds and instruments. I do like the manipulation of Injury Reserve's flow, which to me adds to the computerized, glitchy soundscape of the track. The EP traverses multiple genres and sounds, sometimes in one song, a prime example of which is the opener Robert. It's quite unsettling at times, what with its rampant energy changes. Acid starts off with the luscious strings and vocals akin to a neo-soul pop hit, but already there's something off thanks to production. Not quite as grating and whiplash-inducing as the opening track. It does slowly grow in complexity towards the end. Yellow and Green is similarly more rooted in conventional art pop, with the soft vocals of lead singer Georgia Ellery over simple piano that slowly becomes more electronic as the song progresses. In fact, apart from a few teasing elements, we don't get the full force of glitch pop, experimental pop, until halfway through The City, which again starts with that neo-soul-esque style of vocal. However, that does quickly divert from the piano's piano-driven sound to some really nonsensical lyrics with sound effects and backing track to match that general vibe. City Hell remains firmly in that experimental mindset, with pitched-up vocals and similarly wacky lyrics that add to this fever dream-like experience. The song is the longest by far on this, clocking at 5.5 minutes, almost over a quarter of the album, but to be honest, it never feels stagnant or dragging beyond its lifespan. That's thanks to the constant upheaval of instruments in the background, be it the space opera-like organ synths or the electronic guitar riffs that fade in and out throughout the track. Whilst I don't doubt that the inclusion of Injury Reserve was to bolster the brand of the band, I argue it wasn't exactly needed because the rest of the music was just that good and really captured me and has me anticipating more from them. If you want a quick but different listen, it's definitely for you. I'm giving it a 7.5. On to a much more established band, Dirty Projectors, who have been around since the 90s. They're continuing their 5 EP project with a simple selection of songs closer towards their roots. However, they don't exactly command the same respect as their previous bodies of work. Coming in at just 10 minutes, this EP is over in a flash. And whilst I enjoyed my time within the sonic world, after I came out of it, I wasn't really gasping to go back and listen to it again and again and again. With the advantage of simpler, shorter songs, this entire tracklist has a united feeling to it, but it's also detrimental to the overall sound of the project, as ideas seemingly become repeated. The opening tracks, Inner World and Lose Your Love, are the biggest victim of this homogeneous style, with a samey idiophone sounding instrument linking the songs together. However, they are by no means bad songs, just very similar. There are subtle differences. Inner World carries on the theme of indie folk and folk aspects from the first EP they dropped, but overall these songs could have just been merged into one. And with the passing of time when I'm away from the project, they kind of do merge into one in my head. Self-design does switch things up again, and for me is the most standout moment of this EP. However, the lyrics are quite safe and forgettable, a hallmark of the project really. The vocals are lovely and fit in well with instrumentals, but I can't really recall any interesting words, concepts or phrases. On the closing track, Empty Vessel, the sound is stripped back even further, with slight elements of glitch pop and experimental pop incorporated. That's thanks to the manipulation of multiple vocal layers. It does kind of come across as a half-hearted attempt. However, just like the similarities between the first two tracks, there are elements here that link it with self-design. It seems to be that these are two pairs of connected songs that don't really link up as a cohesive quartet. Overall, there's some ideas here that I wish were expanded on further on perhaps a 20-minute EP rather than a 10-minute EP, which is a shame because of the drastic change between the two EPs they've already dropped. I don't think we can actually hear more of this sound developed upon going forward. I'm leaning towards a 6 for this. Finally, we have How Can I from South Korean artist Park Hee-jin. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if I'm not. She returns with her second EP, another strong showing of deep house that is just fun to vibe and chill with. It was a 2-year gap since her debut EP, but for me there are clear signs of improvement and development from the rapper, producer, musician. This is a generally cohesive project that starts off with energy thanks to the opening tracks Like This and Can You. Like This has this soft cascading sound of a glockenspiel worked into the dreamy landscape of the song with echoing sound effects creating a dreamlike status. The percussion sweeps us firmly into the stylings of the genre, whilst retaining that spacious and calming vibe. Can You is also spacious in sound and feel, but has a more repetitive vocal to serve as the backbone of the song. It certainly has the most club hit feel to it, but again there's that floating feeling that kind of surrounds the track. Throughout the project, the switching between Korean and English is done seamlessly and without fuss, with the two languages effectively used as different tools catered to the music. The titular track adds a more rigid hip-hop-esque beat to another roomy instrumental, the lyrics delivered in a drone-like state. No completely diverts from the cohesive sound the opening trio tracks fostered, with layers of different percussion at the start. The genre of house is hidden behind these multiple layers of percussion, these multiple layers of repetition and percussion, which dominate even after the softly spoken vocals kick in about a minute into the song. It does border slightly on monotonous, however the subtle changes do just keep it fresh enough. How Come incorporates some of those similar percussion instruments, however it slowly layers them and it ups the tempo, creating a much more directed feeling to this song than the previous track. The closing track, Beautiful, has a slight elevated music vibe to it, but also some washed out vocals and washed out echoey music with like some gentle calming instruments far off in the background. Towards the end of the project I kind of get the impression of ideas sort of being stretched beyond their natural conclusion, but overall I haven't really got any major complaints of it being too long or drawn out at all. The back half of the EP does rely on the instrumentals more than the opening 3 tracks, and also I would have liked to have heard more vocals and samples on those tracks at the end. I understand the genre doesn't always call for it. I'm leaning towards a 7 on this one. So those were some EPs on EEEEP. Any that I missed this week? Any recommendations? Any new releases that I should keep an eye on? Let me know down below. And whilst you're down there, feel free to like and subscribe to help me grow. Rapid record review roundup tomorrow. Next week, an episode of both. So stay tuned, stay safe.